Okay, good morning everyone. So today my group consists of Ivana, Orlin, Triajeng, me, Paula, and Joshua. We will presentation about bilingual acquisitions. Next. So first of all, there are terms that you need to know for bilingual acquisitions. The first one is simultaneous acquisition. It is a form of bilingualism that takes place when a child becomes bilingual by learning two languages from birth. This means that the child simultaneously learning two languages at the same time, and both languages are acquired as first languages. And of course, it contrasts with sequential bilingualism. Well, sequential bilingualism occurs when a person becomes bilingual by first learning one language and then another language. And the second one is BFLA or bilingual first language acquisition. So BFLA is the development of language in young children who hear two languages spoken to them from birth. BFLA children are learning the first language, and it contrasts with SLA or second language acquisitions. So SLA is the process by which people learn a second language or another language beside their first language. So second language acquisitions refers to what learners do, and it does not refer to practices in language teaching, although teaching can affect acquisitions. Next. And monolingual or fractional view is what person see. So person always see a bilingual is two monolinguals in one person, but this is not true. Next. So the consequence of the fractional view is person think that bilingual have been described and evaluated in terms of the fluency and balance they have in their two languages. So the real bilingual is equally fluent in both language. But what if there is differential fluency between the two languages? Are they neither monolingual nor bilingual? And then language skills in bilinguals have almost always been appraised in terms of monolingual standards. For example, don't take into account differential needs and different social functions of each language. And the last one is effects of bilingualism has been closely scrutinized. Next. And the next slide will be presented by Orlin.
Okay, now we are going to talk about the holistic view. So the bilingual is a fully competent speaker, hearer, has developed competence in the two or more languages, and the speakers use both or all languages separately or together with different people for different purposes in different domains of life. Is rarely equally fluent in all domains of use in both languages or uses them differently. And the last one is competence cannot be evaluated in terms of only one language. Next slide, please. So it means that we cannot expect a bilingual child to be two monolingual children in one. Next slide. For the early bilingual development, actually it is same as milestones as monolingual, and it developed at around at the same time. Next slide, please. And this slide will be presented by Ajeng.
Okay, perception studies. Perception studies are very crucial in understanding the learning patterns of monolingual and bilingual children. particularly in distinguishing their L1 or first language and another language at 4.5 to 12 months with similar rhythms. Bilingual children segment words in French and English at 7.5 months old, which is the same as monolingual children at that age. However, monolingual children are quicker to distinguish between different languages than bilingual children. This is because they are consistently being exposed to different languages in their daily life, causing a cognitive delay. This requires more time for the children who realize the differences and put segments between the sounds they hear. For example, you can think of a Japanese or English family, where the mother speaks Japanese and the father speaks English. For the child, English is SPO, while Japanese is SOV. There is two times the cognitive load for the child to learn, including the different kinds of syntactic structure they need to learn, two kinds of vocabularies, and also two kinds of phonetic systems. Compared to a monolingual child, it's far more difficult, yet at that age they can do it with ease. Monolingual children, aged around 10 months old, can only distinguish phonetic contrasts that are a part of L1. Bilingual children rather can be little later at a year old. This difference this difference is again due to the bilingual cognitive load. They have to learn far more contrasts and which ones are not important. Children focus on phonetics that are seen in both languages. In, in other words, they actively seek similarities in both language learned. If it's an Indonesian English baby, they will see the similar vowels in each language. This is part of a greater pattern finding technique amongst bilingual children. Another example is between Catalan or pure Spanish and Spanish, which is seen by some as a tainted Mexican Spanish. Catalan has two types of E, while Spanish has just one. Catalans can perceive the contrast between because they are exposed to both types of E at all times, while Spanish are not. Next slide, please. Bubbling. With bubbling, there are patterns specific to language that are present in French and English. With English babies, they can bubble, which means to speak quickly and often incomprehensibly. Words like dada instead of dad or butterfly instead of butterfly. French babies are more polysyllabic because you have a lot of syllables in one word and they have a lower consonant vowel ratio. There are more bisyllabic words in English, which causes different forms of bubbling from the babies. Next slide will be presented by Pana.
Okay, so the production. Young children omit syllables from words when learning to speak. Basically, it's because they still not being able to differentiate between both language. Next. So here's Rattlinger and Bark, Brown stages, mixing languages. Their degree of mixing observed during this developmental span can be grouped. State 1 is mixing level were between 20% until 30%. And the second stage is level tended to between 12% and 20%. And the third stage level between 6% and 12%, and stage 4 between 2% and 6%, and the same level at the stage 5. Mixing rates were seen to decrease with advancing linguistic development. High mixing rates during the earliest stage of bilingual development seem to reflect a general inability of the child to differentiate between the two languages. As the children develop linguistically, the ability to control the languages separately also grew, resulting in a progressive decrease in a language mixing. It appears then the language differentiation is a gradual process which can, at least in part, be traced through decreasing mixing rates. Next.
Okay, the next about the journal of Fihman in 1985, English and Estonian. In his writings, the author wants to get the data for his quantitative work because the bilingual child's data was so scant that the author wanted to test it on his Estonian family, and it's got some change and transition codes over time. And the children obtain the Estonian language at home and English while at a child care center, and they are fluent in bilingual. And from the experiments made as for the differences between the children, there is a greater Estonian language, and so does the other one of have a dominant instead. And about the other journal, Nicoladis, Genesis, and Paradise in 1995 said that the children who are objects receive to language, and when in the early stages it is difficult to distinguish both the language, and the longer they mix between lexical and morphological of those two languages. And in the writing, they were slightly different from the others and said that they were unsure of dependency between examples of mixing languages or isolated estimates. And it said that when their parents are present, their linguistics control is high. And from their results, it's proof that when young, it was easier to learn bilingual even in linguistics that were unknown. So that's our presentation. Thank you.